With this demonstration, we're going to have a look at the application of tone. Tone is the art fancy word for shading. Now, before we begin, make sure you've got all your equipment ready. For example, here I have my rubbers, okay, I've got my sharpness, okay, I've got my line drawing from what I prepared in the last lesson. I've got my reference photo that I've just photographed off the screen from the PowerPoint, the lesson resources, and actually I'm still quite happy that I can use that and zoom in and see the detail that I need to. You can always kind of save the lesson resources from your lesson group and send yourself the picture if it's easier. So, in my equipment, you'll notice that compared to before, I've got an addition of another pencil. This is the pencil that I use to do the line drawing. It's what's known as a HB pencil. Okay, I can maybe see it. Okay, at the end you'll see letters on most pencils saying HP. That's a brilliant pencil for doing line drawing and sketches and getting to this kind of stage. Now, if you have at home, okay, or in your pencil case or with your equipment, you might have a tonal pencil. Okay, if you have a look on here, okay, you can see a number and a letter. Now the letter B refers to a tonal pencil. Okay, and the number refers to how soft it is. The higher the number, the softer the lead. I'm happy, if you've got one, to use any sort of B pencil or tonal pencil. The reason why they're so good is because the lead is softer. That means it's more sensitive to your pressure to be able to create a brilliant range of tone through a range of pressures in your drawing. Now, if you've only got a HB pencil, absolutely fine. You can still use the techniques of pressure to get darks and highlights and mid-tones. So, let's have a look at the drawing. Now, I'm going to pick a starting point that maybe will have some different areas to show in the demonstration that you'll then be able to apply all over your drawing. Okay. So the area I've picked is this area here because it's got some darks, it's got some lights. Okay, so I'm just going to bring my camera down so you can zoom in and see it up close. Okay. Now, just like with the line drawing, use your photo all the time. Zoom in if you want to, and use that because that's got all the answers in. And for me, I usually always start with the darkest tones because the darkest tones are the easiest ones to get right because they should be as dark as your pencil can go. And actually, if there's no white or light or coming through in the image in a certain area, then there should be no white of the page coming through. So let's start off now. Incidentally, I can see actually even in this dark area there's a slight change where the light just hits that corner. So I'm going to make sure that I add that because the more detail you add, the better your drawing will look. Okay, and I'm just going to apply some tone. You can notice how my hand is down near the bottom of the pencil. Okay, just like how you'd hold a pen. That allows me to put maximum pressure or a good amount of pressure to get the darker tones. You'll see in other parts I'll raise my hand up the pencil. That allows for less weight to be over the end of the pencil to get lighter tones. Another little tactic that I'm using, you'll see, is going in different directions. That really helps to get a really good coverage, especially if you're going for those darker areas. Right? If you're going for the darkest tones, it wants to be completely covered. You don't want anywhere like you can see little gaps of white. You want to make sure you've covered those nicely. By about halfway through the drawing, if your hand's starting to hurt, you know you're doing it about right. So taking my time near the edges, I need maximum control. Just to keep it nice and neat. And actually, if I was to expand further, this would actually come out into this shadow. You actually wouldn't see the edge of that object. But I'm going to come back to that later. Okay, so I'm going to come back to that little bit up here. That was a little bit lighter. Now you can already see I'm moving my hand a little bit higher up the pencil. That's because I just want to make sure that I'm changing the pressure. You can even feel it in your hand that you're using a lighter bit of pressure. Right, now here, this highlight, I'm actually just going to just create a little bit of a line, a segment, an area that I'm just going to like outline. And that's just to help me think about making sure I leave that and not fill it in. Right, now analyse your image. Okay, it's not all one tone. Okay, this area's got a gradient, it's got changes. It goes from kind of a mid-tone to mid-light to light to have really highlights. Okay, so that is going to be using your pressure technique and just easing up, lighter pressure all the way across. Okay, I've done a little bit of a middle segment just so I can use that as a little bit of a guide as I steadily build up the tone in all of that area. Okay, really holding my pencil right up at the top just because in the light areas I just want to go in a different direction, add another layer just to try and smoothen it out for that quality. So that would be my kind of base tones. Okay, I'm just going back over this dark here because I want to make it actually darker. I've noticed it's not quite dark enough, so I want to darken it up. Now, if you look closely at the image, you can see what's called texture. Texture is the surface, the way the surface feels, and how we're going to replicate that in our drawing. Now this is wood, so you can see almost this kind of grainy effect. So I'm just going to bring in some extra layers of tone. In kind of a curved direction. Just to replicate that kind of grain effect. Right.
Yeah, you.
Yeah, good, thanks. Pretty happy with that so far. Right. Always a last little good thing to do is your rubber. Now that is actually a really good drawing tool. Okay, because sometimes you can get pencil all over your palm. A good trick for that is getting another piece of paper and putting it in between your palm and the paper. Okay, but sometimes you just smudge or make little errors. Now, to get a wide range of tone, because if you have a wide range of tone from really, really dark to really, really light, okay, it's going to look more 3D. So just using a rubber and just working into it to get some highlights, to make it really punchy. Get those highlights standing really, really out. You can always use that HB just for some of those finer details and work back into it. I guarantee if you do that all the way around your drawing, get your base tones down and work into small layers and look for the detail, by the time you've worked all the way around, your end result's going to look incredible. Right. Have a go.